John Ulzheimer is known as one of our nation's most recognized credit experts. Having worked for 28 years in the credit industry, John has become one of the most prolific speakers about credit and the go-to authority on answers to credit-related questions. Credit Countdown with John Ulzheimer.
Hello, my name is John Ulzheimer, and I am a consumer credit expert. I've been in the credit industry since 1991. I spent some time at FICO, the credit scoring company, and I spent some time at Equifax, which is one of the 3 generally recognized credit reporting agencies. And so from time to time, we get questions either down in the comment section below, and if you want to leave your question down there, I'm happy to answer it. I'll get questions directly from consumers at various websites. And this one comes up quite a bit. It has to do with collection agency accounts. And the question very specifically, do I owe debts that are sent to debt collectors or collection agencies? And so, I've been asked this question on why would you not think that you owe a debt to a debt collector if they're trying to collect it? And I'm not talking about, some illegitimate debt that you never owed where you were the victim of fraud, where there's a plausible explanation. I'm talking about a debt that is legitimately yours. So for example, some sort of a medical debt that was yours, or maybe you defaulted on a credit card account, or maybe you broke a lease with your apartment and then the apartment complex is trying to collect the remainder of the lease from you, or maybe you damaged the apartment or they're trying to collect the amount to cover the repairs for damage. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the actual legitimate debts that you owe to some original service provider, a bank, a doctor's office, an apartment complex. There's other examples, but those are utility companies. Those are the ones that come to mind right now. So the question is as well, do I owe those debts? And so here's what I think the confusion stems. So there are many, many different companies in the United States today that are commonly referred to as collection agencies. So third-party debt collectors, where their one and only purpose in life is that they are essentially hired by service providers or lenders to collect debts that consumers are unwilling to pay. That's why they exist, to collect debt. That's really what they do. The reason the question comes up is, do I owe a debt collector this money, is because obviously the consumer, the debtor, never opened an account with Joe's collection agency or, established any sort of relationship with XYZ collection agency. And so I think the perception or the impression is, as well, if I didn't open an account with them initially, if I had no contract with them, then clearly I don't owe them this debt, even though they're trying to collect it for some other company that I actually did have some sort of an obligation towards, and I actually do owe them some money. The issue is when you have, what's called an original creditor, and then you have the debtor. Okay, sorry for my bad handwriting. This is you, you're the debtor. So the original service provider or the original creditor or OC is the doctor's office or the apartment complex. Well, clearly you have a relationship with them. There's no question about that. But you're not paying them, okay? So they've essentially washed their hands of you. Because you're not paying them, they don't want to have anything to do with you any longer, okay? So what they've done is they've hired a debt collector. Now they have taken your debt and they have essentially hired this company to collect it from you, okay? And they can do this one of a couple of ways. The original creditor consign the debt to the debt collector, meaning that they're just saying, hey, look, here's this $1,000 debt. If you'll collect it from the debtor, we'll give you some percentage of the amount that you can collect. So it's like a revenue share or some sort of a percentage or a bounty that original creditor is willing to pay to the debt collector for collecting it from you, the debtor. The other scenario is when the original creditor says, you know what, I want to wash my hands of this entirely, and then they may end up selling it to a debt buyer. So a debt buyer actually buys your debt from the original creditor, and now they become the new creditor because they now own the rights to collect the debt. You never opened any sort of an account with them, and so the perception might be, well, I don't know who you are. Well, they're your new creditor because you're not paying your original creditor. They washed their hands of it, sold it to the debt buyer, and the debt buyer, who usually has some sort of a relationship with a debt collector, now they're trying to collect the debt from you. And so the question still remains, do I owe debts sent to collectors? And the answer is Absolutely, you certainly do. You either owe it to them because they have been assigned the debt by the original creditor and they're actually trying to collect the debt for them, or the debt buyer has actually bought the debt from the original creditor and now they are your creditor. So you don't have an account with the apartment complex anymore or the medical office anymore. Your account is now with the debt buyer. They own it. They're now your creditor. So the answer to both questions in both scenarios, do I owe this, is yes, you do owe it. The next plausible question is well, should I pay them? Of course you should pay them. If you owe your debt, if you owe a debt to a consumer, I don't think you'd find any reputable person in the credit industry that says you shouldn't pay your debts, okay? You may have people try to give you strategies on how to minimize the amount you're paying, like trying to offer settlements. That's perfectly fine. That's a legitimate strategy. Or offering some sort of a payment program that result in you paying less than what you actually owe. Hey, if they're willing to agree to that kind of a deal, that's great. You know, if you were to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, you would discharge these debts and then you would not owe them any longer because the collectors can't legally collect them from you any longer. So there's certainly ways that you can maybe minimize the amount that you owe, but you absolutely do owe it and you absolutely should pay it. You should live up to your end of your credit obligations. That's how people earn good credit reports and great credit scores, and that's what banks like to see. And if you have those types of, scenarios on credit reports where it does indicate that you pay your bills responsibly, they're going to throw money at you at historically low interest rates. And so that's really where you want to be as a borrower. These types of accounts can be sent to the credit reporting agencies. It's perfectly legal. So they're going to show up as either third-party debt collection accounts, or sometimes they may actually show up as trade lines or account level information, kind of down where your credit cards and your mortgages and your auto loans and your student loans might be. One way or the other, they're both considered collections. They're both considered negative by credit scoring systems. They may lower your credit score, they may not, depending on whatever else is on your credit reports. And they're allowed to be reported by the consumer credit reporting agencies for up to 7 years, and that's straight out of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So hopefully I dispelled some myths about whether or not you actually owe debts to debt collectors. If you have any questions about that, please leave them in the section below and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you for watching and have a great rest of your day. We'll talk again soon.
For more videos and credit tips from John Ulzheimer, go to www.tradelinesupply.com.